Hi there guys, so Anthony Joshua has added someone to his training staff, Angel Fernandez, who has previously worked with British cruiserweight Isaac Chamberlain. Now, this guy will add a fresh perspective to Anthony Joshua's training camp, and obviously Rob McCracken will remain as head trainer for Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua has previously stated he has no desire to move away from Rob McCracken at this stage or any stage of his career, because Rob McCracken has shaped him into the fighter and the man he has become today. And let's remember all of the achievements that Anthony Joshua has had in the sport of boxing under the guidance of Rob McCracken. You have the Vladimir Klitschko win, and obviously the Joseph Parker unification, and the Alexander Povetkin win, where Anthony Joshua had his tactics wrong in the first few rounds because he was squatting down and coming down to Alexander Povetkin's height and allowing Povetkin to get his shots away. And it made it all too easy for Joshua to take punishment. And considering Anthony Joshua had only had 21 fights and was relatively unexperienced considering he was a unified heavyweight champion, Rob McCracken guided him through that fight and made sure that he was using his height, using his reach, instead of coming down to Alexander Povetkin's level. And the same thing applied in the Andy Ruiz Jr. fight. Anthony Joshua was coming down to Andy Ruiz Jr.'s level. He was squatting down and making it all too easy for Andy Ruiz Jr. to get his shots away, especially considering Anthony Joshua was not using his physical attributes against Andy Ruiz Jr. And Andy Ruiz Jr. was allowed to land clean, especially considering Anthony Joshua was coming over his front foot as well, something he was also doing in the Alexander Povetkin fight. And obviously Rob McCracken switched up the tactics in that fight, but in the Andy Ruiz Jr. fight, Anthony Joshua was in no place to receive instructions from Rob McCracken. He was just too badly hurt. So clearly Anthony Joshua will need to be using his physical attributes, his good jab, to beat Andy Ruiz Jr. on December 7th. Not necessarily just use his brute strength and power, because that didn't work last time. So this time it's going to have to be more of a boxing match. So perhaps that is why he is adding a fresh perspective to his training camp in Angel Fernandez. Now, of course, there is the possibility that this could upset the apple cart, considering Rob McCracken is head trainer and Anthony Joshua has probably made this decision himself to bring this guy in. But ultimately, Anthony Joshua said he needed to add to what he already had. Not necessarily take things away or change things, but he believed that he needed to add things to his training camp, and that is what he has done by bringing in Angel Fernandez. He said he had 3 options. 1, keep things as they are. 2, change everything and get rid of Rob McCracken. Or 3, add to what he already has. And he has chosen to add to his team by bringing in Angel Fernandez to his training camp. Now, obviously, at this stage in training camp, it is the business end of it. It is getting tough and it is getting hard because we are in the last 4 weeks, and it is going to be the last 4 weeks, the last push, and then after that, it will be tapering down for fight night. So the last week will be just doing bits and bobs and making sure that Anthony Joshua stays sharp. He has a lot of energy and he maintains a correct distance when he does the pads, and obviously they won't be sparring on fight week, at least I hope they aren't. But he will have to make sure he is maintaining his timing, his speed and his movement just to make sure he is in Killick for fight night. So this addition to Anthony Joshua's training camp, is it a good thing or is it a bad thing? Well, there are pros and cons to both, because obviously he has his head coach Rob McCracken, and perhaps this was Anthony Joshua's decision to bring in this guy, Angel Fernandez, not necessarily Rob McCracken, because it was Anthony Joshua's idea to add to what he already has, not Rob McCracken's. So there is always the worry that they could be in each other's way. Rob McCracken is telling Anthony Joshua one thing and Angel Fernandez is telling him another. And obviously come fight night, he will have 2 different game plans. Rob McCracken will be telling him one thing in the corner and perhaps he is doing something different in the ring. And then you get a repeat of what happened last time. So that is the reason why it could be a bad idea, because Anthony Joshua will be training under both of them and they will both be teaching Anthony Joshua something different. Now, obviously, if Anthony Joshua can put both of them together, then it's not such a bad thing. But if he cannot, and it does not work, and Rob McCracken wants him to do one thing, and Angel Fernandez wants him to do another, then in the ring, Anthony Joshua is caught between 2 minds and just tries to go and wing it, then ultimately, that is going to be a downfall for Anthony Joshua. So he needs to listen to one voice and one voice only. He needs to make sure that his head coach is the one he is listening to, because that is the guy who will be in his corner on December 7th, not Angel Fernandez, because Rob McCracken is his head coach. So he needs to be training primarily with Rob McCracken. And if Angel Fernandez is going to have some input, then he needs to make sure that he is conversing and on speaking terms with Rob McCracken. Make sure they are communicating so they both have the same idea, because if they are not, then problems could arise. Now, it could be a good idea because it adds a fresh perspective, and obviously the opposite of what I just said. As long as they are conversing, as long as they are on speaking terms, and they are both working and building towards the same thing for Anthony Joshua, then we don't have a problem. And I believe that Angel Fernandez is mostly going to be doing pad work with Anthony Joshua, not much else. So Rob McCracken will still be in the driving seat. He will still be putting together a game plan for Anthony Joshua, which I believe will be to box Andy Ruiz Jr., not necessarily fight him. Because Andy Ruiz Jr. likes to get stuck in, he likes to come forward, he likes to take centre of ring and make sure the other fighter is doing most of the work. Because if Andy Ruiz Jr. is in the centre of the ring, he's not expending that much energy. He won't expend much energy by punching. If he has to start moving his feet, that will expend a lot more energy. So if Anthony Joshua is boxing with Ruiz, then Ruiz in turn will be made to work harder. If you look at how Joseph Parker dealt with Andy Ruiz Jr., he got battered for the first 3 rounds. It was hell for Joseph Parker in there. But Joseph Parker switched up his game plan and started to box him instead of just meeting him head on. Then Andy Ruiz Jr. had to adjust his feet, and he found it a lot more difficult to tag Joseph Parker clean and get any success, and Joseph Parker ultimately won that fight. It was close, it was a split decision, but I believe it was the right decision. Joseph Parker did win that fight, and he done it by boxing Ruiz. So ultimately, Anthony Joshua cannot fight with Ruiz. That is Andy Ruiz Jr.'s game. Inside fighting and mid-range, Anthony Joshua is going to struggle with, especially against Andy Ruiz Jr., who is used to fighting at that range. Much similar to the Povetkin fight, Anthony Joshua was fighting him at mid-range for the first 3 rounds. And that was when Povetkin was having his most success in those first 3 rounds, when Povetkin was dictating the distance of the 2 fighters. But when Anthony Joshua started using his physical attributes, using his jab and adjusting his feet a bit more before and after he threw his punches, that was when Anthony Joshua started to control the distance against Alexander Povetkin, and I believe it will be a similar game plan going in against Andy Ruiz Jr. But he cannot start slow. He needs to make sure that he does that and implements that game plan straight away, and not to allow Andy Ruiz Jr. any foothold in the fight. So as I said, it will be a good thing as long as they are both talking and conversing with each other, Rob McCracken and Angel Fernandez. If they are separated and they are working separately with Anthony Joshua, then we could have a problem. But as long as they are on speaking terms and they are conversing regularly to build a picture and build a game plan for Anthony Joshua, then I believe this could be a good decision because it adds a fresh perspective. Also, what needs to happen is make sure that Rob McCracken is not stuck in his ways and says, no, this is the way we're doing it. You just stay over there and do your thing in a minute. Because that is no good for Anthony Joshua. They need to make sure they are both working together for Anthony Joshua. That is the most important thing for this training camp and for Anthony Joshua in this fight on December 7th in Saudi Arabia for the unified heavyweight titles. Anthony Joshua bids to become a 2-time world champion. Anthony Joshua is giving himself every opportunity to win this fight by bringing in Angel Fernandez and adding to his team. Now, will it be a good thing or will it be a bad thing? We don't know. It could be a conflict of interest between Angel Fernandez and Rob McCracken. Rob McCracken is quite stubborn, and perhaps this won't be a good idea. Perhaps Rob McCracken won't like Angel Fernandez getting under his feet, or perhaps they will both work together brilliantly for Anthony Joshua, build a great game plan, and Anthony Joshua can implement it. But as I said, there cannot be 2 voices. There has to be one, and it has to be Rob McCracken, his head coach, because he is the one who will be in the corner on fight night. So as long as the information is coming through Rob McCracken, and Rob McCracken is aware of the information being passed from Angel Fernandez to Anthony Joshua, then they should be okay, and this partnership could work. But guys, the question I have for you is, do you believe that is possible? Also, do you believe that this is a good idea to add a fresh perspective to Anthony Joshua's training camp ahead of his fight with Andy Ruiz Jr.? Also, guys, let me know your thoughts about the undercard, Eric Molina versus Filip Hrgovic, and Scott Quigg versus John O'Carroll, and Michael Hunter versus Alexander Povetkin. And that one is going to be Chief Support. Michael Hunter versus Alexander Povetkin. Michael Hunter, the Giant Slayer, versus Alexander Povetkin, who is coming off a great win over Hughie Fury. So guys, how do you believe this card is shaping up in Saudi Arabia on December 7th? Are you excited by these undercard fights? And let me know some predictions for them also. Guys, drop your thoughts in the comments below, click the thumbs up, and subscribe if you are new. Thanks guys.